Hello and welcome to The Direct Approach with Wayne Moorehead, an exclusive podcast by DSN filled with candid and insightful conversations with leading corporate executives about today's evolving direct sales channel. Today, Wayne is joined by Blake Mallen, president of Prove It and host of the newest podcast by DSN, Direct Selling Shift. Wayne and Blake dive into the potential of artificial intelligence and how it can catapult businesses to their full potential. Discover how AI isn't about more work, it's about reclaiming your time and supercharging productivity and results. Blake covers the two types of AI and how today's tools are more user-friendly, practical, and accessible than ever before, and how we're just scratching the surface of AI's potential, with less than 1% of the population harnessing its power, limitless possibilities, and benefits. To deep dive into AI insights, real-world examples, and Blake's preferred applications, secure your spot at the Fall DSU event on October 11th and 12th. As a bonus, DSU attendees gain exclusive access to the AI Edge workshop hosted by Blake and special guest AI expert Brandon White. They'll unveil step-by-step tools and techniques to supercharge your productivity and save you precious time. Corporate executives can register today for free at dsu2023.com. Before we begin, did you know that DSN is powered by the direct selling community? DSN is honored to be supported by industry suppliers that partner with companies across the channel to help enhance, streamline, and grow your businesses. This episode is sponsored by PayQuicker. Your business moves fast, but is your money keeping up? PayQuicker's award-winning solution lets your business make payouts across the globe instantly. Send payments to over 200 countries and territories in more than 40 currencies through PayQuicker's secure API with funds available to spend immediately. PayQuicker is a fully customizable, white-label payment platform letting you offer branded debit cards, instant virtual cards, global bank transfers, mobile wallets, cash, and more. Plus, you get their bank-grade security and global compliance, coupled with multilingual account support, so you can focus on growing your business. Start paying your sales force instantly with the largest global payout provider to direct selling organizations, because faster payouts to your distributors means they grow their business and yours faster. Learn today at payquicker.com. Now, please help me welcome your host, Wayne Moorehead, and today's guest, Blake Mallen.
Hello and welcome to another episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Moorehead, and today I'm excited to welcome back my friend and friend of DSN, Blake Mallen. You're all familiar with Blake. He's a well-known figure in direct selling. He has had an incredible career inside and outside of the channel as a founder, an entrepreneur, executive, speaker, thought leader, content creator, and now host of DSN's new podcast, Direct Selling Shift. Blake, thank you so much for being here today.
Great to be back on the show. I enjoyed our first conversation, Wayne, and super excited about today's topic. So thanks for having me again.
Me too. I always enjoy our conversations. You're so thoughtful. You're so insightful. And since we just mentioned Direct Selling Shift, do you want to take a couple minutes for those that maybe have not heard, the most recent announcement? Can you tell us a little bit about Direct Selling Shift and its focus?
Yeah, happy to start there. We just went live super recently.
Congrats.
So, Wayne, I know you've been doing an amazing job with the DSN team, making an impact through the podcasting channel for the executive community. Love the show. I've been a listener, get a lot of value. And I know a lot of the ownership, executive management, kind of C-suite level plugs into Direct Approach for kind of the go-to, right, for strategy, insight at a corporate level. And Direct Selling Shift is DSN's newest podcast, a new podcast added to the DSN family. Happy to be alongside you in that co-host or host seat. And we're bringing the same level of credibility that DSN has brought to the executive community, but now hyper-focused on serving the largest, most powerful audience in direct selling, which is the distributor community all across the world. So yeah, it's awesome, Wayne. Interviewing some amazing leaders, people that are current credibility, some of which that have been in the channel for decades, some of which that are relatively new, like over the last 12 months, 24 months, that are absolutely crushing it. and really just drawing insights and perspective and stories on what's working right now and kind of the season of shift we're in as a channel, as a way to add value to all of the distributors across the world, across all communities, to accelerate, to amplify impact, and really to raise the tide of direct selling together. So yeah, super excited. Great feedback so far. And you can find it on all podcast platforms. Just search Direct Selling Shift or go to directsellingshift.com for details.
Well, a huge congratulations. I know it's been a long time in the making. You put a lot of time and effort into this and getting the guests and developing the format, and structuring how all the great insights are going to be delivered. And you were kind enough to let me listen to some of the initial episodes. And as I've mentioned,
did you listen to them? Did you go through them?
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, I'm honestly hooked. And here's why. For me, as a former CMO and somebody that's lived in the marketing departments within direct selling, it's vital that we understand the direct selling consumer and the direct selling distributor, and especially the field leader, to understand what drives them, what motivates them. And we do that in so many different ways. We have advisory boards. We have surveys that we send out. We use our incentive trips to spend one-on-one time and get to know them and understand them. And as you and I have spoken, I even like to occasionally sit on distributor support phone calls just to hear what issues are arising, what problems they're having, how we can make their life a little bit easier. And so I'm always trying to get that distributor perspective. And this podcast does such an amazing job of delivering that distributor perspective from those that, as you say, are closest to the fire, that are out there in the field, making it happen, that are selling and sharing, and really that are seeing how the landscape is changing in real time. They're feeling it more acutely than we are in corporate. There is always some kind of, delayed reaction till it gets to us at corporate, and we're able to try to move and to adjust however the landscape is shifting. But being able to hear from these leaders, and especially from multiple companies, and to understand what's working for them, what's not working, and be able to pull in these insights, it's huge. As a corporate person, I'm using that in air quotes, I'm going to be listening every week and talk a little bit. I think one thing that's important to note on this is just how it's going to be a safe space, that brands and companies and things aren't going to really be used. It's really just focused on kind of the how of what's going on. Can you share just a second about that?
Yeah, for sure. And I love what you just said, because really it is an incredible advantage we have as direct selling business models, that we have relationships with our sales force, right? We have relationships with the people that are engaging with our customers every single day. I mean, traditional retail companies, traditional D2C companies would love to have the type of visibility and transparency and connection that we get to have in this channel, right? So I think anybody that's been around long enough and is humble enough to admit, like, the best ideas always come from the field, right? Innovation happens fastest in the field. They respond the quickest in the field. They shift, right, pun intended, first in the field. And we just want to create a platform, an environment where we can extract that perspective from across all the companies, all the brands, all the countries, which is a super unique, right, scope, if you can think about it, to really grab insights from what's working from the best of the best across all categories across the world. And like you said, in a space that we know DSN brings, right? DSN has brought trust, transparency, credibility, right? I love the term real, right? DSN's always been my go-to, because I know it's real news, right? There's so much fake news out there in the world, especially in this channel. I mean, you go to the internet, you don't know what to believe or what list is accurate or where those numbers came from or what's going on. There's so much hype and hyperbole. It's awesome to bring, a trusted media source and the approach DSN has taken to the executive community and really shine that spotlight to the distributor communities. We're not going to mention ever any company. We're not going to mention any product. We're not going to mention any service. There's not going to be anything that's overly, centric, because it doesn't matter. That's not the heart of the issue. Right. What matters is we're all facing similar challenges. We're all facing similar evolution. We're all innovating together, and the insights we can all learn from one another. So that's what to expect. And if you are an executive listener, which I know that is the audience listening to this, thank you for those of you that have supported DSN. If you've gotten value from the team and the community, right, you know that the organization always does things right and professional. And let's just take the next step. And we ask you to not just tune in, like Wayne, you said, be a fly on the wall. I think that's great to get a distributor perspective, but share the show, help us promote it, help us get the word out, share it with your team, share it with your distributor communities, share it with your leadership. I think it's going to add a tremendous amount of value together and help us all rise together. So yeah, super excited about it and excited it's live.
Well, thank you for leading the charge, and thank you to Stuart and Shelley for really helping make this happen and putting it under the DSN umbrella. Again, it comes with such a strong and powerful mark of credibility that I know it's going to help bring lots of great insights from the field into the corporate world. So kind of moving on into why we're actually here today. So this is kind of a special episode. In other episodes, we'll focus on an individual or an executive from a specific company. And today we're really going to drill deep on a specific topic, and that's going to be AI. And that's something that you have delved probably deeper than almost anyone that I personally know into the platforms, the tools, into kind of the zeitgeist around AI and what's happening and really ultimately where it's going to go. So I'm excited that you're going to help us dig deep and shed some light on everything that's going on in the world of AI, because we are hearing so much about it. It is part of our everyday lives now. We can't, open our news feeds or anything like that without seeing something related to AI. And even though it's been around for quite a while, probably more than we realize, it's remarkable that in the last, 12, 24 months, there's really been kind of an explosion in awareness and in understanding and even in usage around AI.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, there's also so much of this discussion is around the disruptive impact of this technology, both positive and negative, how it's going to help our lives in business. And, we hear these kind of horror stories or myths of these kind of dystopian view of what's going to happen, 100 years down the road because of AI. So I'm glad that you get to help us sift through fact from fiction. And I'd love for you to help us set the table a little bit and take a step back before we get into the topic too much. Can you help set the table on what AI is and really kind of some of the history around it and how you found yourself digging into this?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'll do my best. I'm just genuinely excited about this topic, right? So I'm going to do my best to kind of stay on scope and answer your questions, but I'll warn all of you up front. It's been a long time since there's been something that I was so genuinely excited about, like I'm losing sleep over, not just figure of speech, like literally. It's one of those things where when I go to bed at night and my brain won't turn off, not because of like anxiety or stress or worry, but because of excitement and realization of what this means and will go. So I've found myself just in student mode. Like I've been spending late nights after I put my kids to bed, just watching, learning, playing, right? Digging down the AI rabbit hole because it's exciting. It's something I'm passionate about. My family and those around me, my wife, that they're used to now social conversations just kind of dovetailing in ways into an AI conversation just out of enthusiasm. So anyway, I'll do my best to transfer some of the things I've been learning in this conversation. So where'd you say you wanted to start where?
Like setting the table a little bit as it relates to like help us kind of define when we talk about AI and some of these platforms, what really is meant by it and what really inspired you to dig into AI.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've actually never been asked like how I would define AI outside of the obvious artificial intelligence. I'm going to go off script here. Have you downloaded the ChatGPT mobile app?
Yes, I've got it on my iPad.
Make sure you download the mobile app, the right one, because a lot of people think they downloaded the right one and they downloaded the wrong one. But ChatGPT launched its mobile version a little while ago. I'm just going to go ahead and ask my own mobile app here. How would you define AI? Artificial intelligence, often abbreviated as AI, refers to the field of computer science and technology that aims to create computer systems and machines capable of performing tasks that typically require human intelligence. These tasks include learning from data, reasoning, problem solving, understanding natural language, recognizing patterns, and making decisions. AI technologies can be broadly categorized into two types: narrow or weak AI, which is designed for specific tasks, and general or strong AI, which would have human-like intelligence and the ability to perform a wide range of cognitive tasks. That's a fun one. I've never actually defined AI or searched that one. But that's how ChatGPT defines AI. And I did that kind of as a joke, but also as that's what I'm doing like every single day.
Yeah.
When I don't Google anymore. I ChatGPT. Like why would I, if I want to know something or learn something on demand, I used to go to Google. I'd have to scroll past the sponsored ads and the advertisements. Then I'd get to a bunch of websites that are there strategically because people know SEO and have the right word density, not because it answers what I'm looking for, right? Then I got to go read and scroll. And it's not really the question I asked. And I'm down a wormhole, right? Not even getting the answer that I was looking for trying to Google something, when I can just pull up ChatGPT, ask a question, have a conversation, get exactly what I'm looking for, dive deeper into what I care about, minus all of the time and energy. And I'm doing that every single day, not just in ChatGPT, but on a variety of tools. To answer your question directly from my perspective, so that's the smart answer.
Well, I just want to, sorry to jump in, but just the fact that you have switched a behavior such as, Googling or searching for something, which is, we all do 20, 30, 50, hundreds of times a day, no doubt.
Yep.
The fact that you have switched now that behavior, I find that really interesting and probably a sign of some of the things to come.
As soon as you do, you'll be on the same boat. For those of you that are listening out there, it makes sense because of the efficiencies that I just said, right? And so I gave you, I was more curious what the answer to AI. Now I know the expert answer. I'll give you guys my answer. My answer, Wayne, and if I were to answer that question without the help of ChatGPT, I'd answer AI in one word: as a tool. To me, it's a tool, and maybe actually a better word would be a toolbox at this point, because for me, every single day, it really has evolved into a toolbox, a variety of tools, all layering on this concept of AI that all have different utilities or agencies or purposes, right, that I'm using every single day, personally, professionally, in my company, as an individual. I'm going to digress here. I came across an old school video. I love Steve Jobs. I'm guessing you probably are a fan of Steve Jobs.
Huge fan, of course, yeah.
And I came across an old, you'd love this clip. I found it on YouTube. It was from 1981. It's the year I was born, right? So it's young Jobs, and he's in an interview, and he's talking about how when he was young, I think he says something like, hey, when I was 12, I was reading an article, Scientific American, and it was a study that measured the local motion. In other words, the energy that it takes, the literal calories that it takes for every species or most of the species on planet Earth to go from point A to point B. So kind of a cool study, like, how much energy does it take to go from point A to point B, and who's the most efficient species? And it was this full study, and the answer was the condor. So the condor was the species that they found in this study on planet Earth that was the most efficient to go from point A to point B. And humans, right? Humans, us, right? The superior beings, right, on this planet, we were like way down the list. Like we were like a third down the list in terms of like just efficiency to move from point A to point B, until someone had the imagination to put a human on a bicycle. And when a human got put on a bicycle, it blew the condor away. And we went from a third down the list to the number one. And at that point, this is me channeling Jobs in this video. He says, at that point, we realized humans were tool builders. And if we could build tools to make ourselves more effective and more efficient, that capacity to build and then utilize tools is what catapults us, right, into the realm that we're in as a species. And this was 1981, and he says, well, a computer to him was like a bicycle of the mind. And he was saying, we've barely scratched the beginning. It's crazy what we'll be in 100 years. I get chills looking at that clip. Obviously, he was a futurist. He was brilliant. But like if the computer, which has, to his prediction, become like a bicycle of the mind over the last, whatever, 20, 30, 40 years since he said that. I would equate, Wayne, AI. If a computer is a bicycle, AI is like a freaking rocket ship of the mind in terms of the ability to be a tool to amplify, to accelerate, to scale us and scale you. So that's how I would define it. I would define it as a toolbox that now is literally new tools being created every single day to allow us to accelerate, amplify, right, what we're already doing, or scale for the first time maybe ever in like human civilization, could scale could scale a person in what we do. So for me, that's how I guess I would define. There's your ChatGPT official smart answer, and I'd call it a toolbox.
I love the toolbox analogy. I need to look up the Jobs video. I've actually never seen, in all the video clips I've watched of Jobs, I've actually never seen that one. So I've got to look that up. But I do think the toolbox analogy is spot on. And I think that gets to one of the big concerns people have today with AI. One of the around kind of, we know there's other potential kind of criticisms of AI, but one of the big things that people feel or worry about most acutely is their employment, their jobs. And one of the big questions that arises is this going to replace me? Am I going to lose my job because of AI? And so many of the thought leaders, at least I'll say currently, let's not look out too far, because when you're looking out maybe 10 years with something moving at an exponential rate, it might be a little bit of a different story. But in the near future, or the near term, I think it's just going to help optimize workers. It's going to make them do all the things you just mentioned. It's going to scale. It's going to increase time efficiency, resource efficiency, but ultimately optimize their effectiveness. Hence, that's what tools do. So I think that analogy and that answer really helps to get to one of the big concerns that kind of most of us have around AI right now. One of the questions I have is, why now? So we have been interacting with AI for a long time. Chatbots, voice assistants, predictive text, even in our emails. So why all of a sudden are we hearing about it now? What has been this tipping point that's brought it to the forefront in the last 12, 24 months?
So not to be overly funny, but purely because I'm curious, what made AI reach a tipping point now? The rapid advancement and increase of artificial intelligence in recent years can be attributed to several key factors. Number one, increased computational power. Okay, so the ability for our computers to do this. Number two, big data. Makes sense. Access to all the data and the information for it to learn. Number three, algorithmic, I guess how you'd say that word, advancements. So the ability for algorithms to process, decipher and do something with that data. Number four, increased investment. Got to have money in order to grow. Both a lot of big companies, private companies, public companies, a lot of money flowing in this direction. 5, practical applications. That's huge, right? So AI now has practical applications. I think that's a big one. Number 6, it says open source and collaboration. So it's not one person trying to figure this out. It's now become a platform, right? Collaboration is accelerating. Number 7, consumer demand. People needing it. There's the smart answer from ChatGPT. If I were to give the Blake answer of why I think this is accelerating right now, to me, it's probably 3 things. To me, it's because it's freaking useful. It's useful, right? It's practical. Number 2 is it's simple. So it's become extremely useful, extremely simple, because of the way that people that are innovating right now are wrapping these tool sets, which is just UI, user interfaces, apps, right? Websites over the AI intelligence. They're making it useful for the average person, super simple, and it's cheap. Like, it's accessible to the masses. Like ChatGPT free version alone, let alone the plus paid version, is like exponentially more powerful than anything that's ever existed at our fingertips. So to me, there's the ChatGPT stuff, which all makes sense, right? All those things are probably the real reason why. My layman's answer is, okay, we got something now that's super useful on a day-to-day, personally, professionally. It's easy to use for the average person, and the barrier of entry to use it is nothing, right? In many of these situations. And even the paid apps are like pennies compared to what it would have cost to do those same actions, right, previously. So I think that's what's accelerating it. But Wayne, I'll say this, because I think you said tipping point. I don't think we're even close to a tipping point. I think this is like the very, very, very beginning of what's to come. Not just anecdotally or a feeling. I got bored one night, true story, and I asked ChatGPT what percentage of the population was on ChatGPT. and out of the 7.9 billion or whatever people there are on this planet, and it wasn't that long ago when I asked it, at the time I typed it in, it was like 1.27%, right? So, and that's on the ChatGPT free version. So I didn't ask, but I'm sure if I would ask, well, how much is on the paid version, right? Paying $20 a month to unlock the 10 times, faster GPT-4, right? How many people are logging into it? That percentage would be radically lower. So here's my point. We're talking like sub 1% and probably fractions of that are actively using even ChatGPT is probably the most prominent app, let alone the hundreds or thousands of other applications that are emerging out there. So my point is, I don't think we're even to the starting line. When I know you're a marketer, you're probably familiar. The book comes to mind, Crossing the Chasm. Did you remember Crossing the Chasm? Mm-hmm. Right. So every marketer knows that, right? It's like that innovation curve visual, right? That talks about things kind of going into the mainstream, and it outlines the phases, right, of adoption in a viral technology. And it kind of goes through the very first, which is like the innovators phase, and it says that's 2.5% of the population, right? The tech enthusiasts, the innovations. We're not even to that. Let alone to that second phase, the early adopters, the visionaries, let alone to the chasm it talks in the book to jump to mainstream before you get to, the early majority, the late majority, right? The skeptics and the laggards. So if we go by that definition, we're like just out of the gates at the starting line, just on the very first app, let alone where this will go. So I just want to create that perspective, although we might be hearing about it more. And DSN's doing a phenomenal job shining the spotlight, saying, guys, pay attention. Mm-hmm. The data says we haven't even gotten out of the gates of where this is going to go. And I think that for us, for all of us listening, is the opportunity. So even if you're just beginning this conversation, no, you're still early. You're at the forefront of where I think this is going to go.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really great point. There's still so much road ahead of us around where this is going to evolve. Again, it's going to be happening and is happening at a geometric rate. That kind of raises the question, help us kind of sort through fact from fiction as it relates to where we're at today. And you just touched on it a little bit, and I mean it in more of the context of our business lives today. There are some leaders that feel, man, I should already be able to reduce my marketing team in half because of all these great tools that AI allows us to leverage. And there's others that are like, hey, we're still just playing around with this. It's literally, I mean the term playing around with it, kind of just to experiment and see what it can do, what its capabilities are. So from a business perspective, where are we at today? And maybe even where should we be at?
In terms of how we should be looking at AI or
and its impact. I mean, if that's, looking at kind of a range of, I should be reducing my human resources by 50% to, hey, in between meetings, I've downloaded a few AI apps and I'm kind of messing around with it.
Not to be overly critical, but like I got a visceral reaction when if you're an executive and your first thought when you hear AI is, how do I reduce my staff? You are missing the whole point. you missed it. That's
thank you for highlighting that. Keep going.
It's such a and I don't want to be overly critical or reactive to it, but like, you're thinking way too small. Way too small. Right now, there already exists. Forget tomorrow, forget next year, right? Forget where we'll be 90 days from today. Right now, AI already has the ability to do anything that a person at a keyboard can do. And I'm going to extend that beyond a keyboard. Like, these are our keyboards today, right? I mean, it already can do anything that a person at a keyboard or a phone, right, can do. Now, it hasn't made the step in every direction yet to create a user interface, an application to make that simple, right, for the average person to do, cost effective, right? But the capability is already there. So the questions I think we should be asking ourselves, I heard someone put it a few weeks ago. I thought it was a great question. It was something like, if you had 10,000 geniuses, and take this question literally, like if you had 10,000 geniuses, and let's say they were geniuses in every aspect you needed to take your business, your company to its ultimate potential, right? Geniuses in every division, in every function. And you had instant access to 10,000 of them. And those people, let's say, were willing to work 24/7 for you, 365 days a year, and do anything that you directed them to do. What would you have them do? Like, it's a crazy question. Like, if you had that capacity, what would you have them do? I'll ask you another question, right? And this is maybe a more practical one, right? That's a big picture, a visionary one. This one, as executives, we all have lists that are long and never ending. I'm willing to bet. What are the things right now that you know you should be doing that you're not? What are the things right now that your company, you know you should be doing, but you're not? We all have this list. So this is not me putting guilt on anybody. Like, I have a long list of things I know we should be doing and we are not, or things we should be doing more of, right, that we're not. Wayne, those are the questions I'd be asking, because AI tools, the toolbox, unlocks both those things. It's like it's a tool. It needs the handyman. It needs the user. It needs someone that knows how to use the tool, but someone with the right tool, right? The right person with the right perspective, with the right tool, they can act like those 10,000 geniuses in every function. Or the team that you have right now with the right culture, philosophy, curiosity, I think is probably the word right now more than anything. Curiosity to learn how to use the new hammer, right? The new drill, the new toolbox, can exponentially increase, right, the output. So now we can take our teams that we have right now, add a layer of AI tools on top of them, and start to do more of what we know we should be doing to reach more of the people we want to reach. So, like, to me, my reaction, and I hope I didn't come across too harsh, like, if your first reaction is like, well, how do I cut down? Oh my God, you missed the point. Like, how do you mobilize your team, whatever that team is, to get curious enough to use the tools, to amplify what they can do, to grow your mission and your vision? Don't come from a place of scarcity. Like, that's retro. Come from a place of abundance. And how do we use these to catapult ourselves, our brands, our services, our communities to levels that we haven't gone before? So to me, that's the frame I look at, is not how do I like reduce a headcount by X amount of dollars. I'm more thinking like, how do I exponentially increase the effectiveness and the efficiency of what we do to accomplish things that have never before been humanly possible in business and for people? So that's the frame and that I would take there. But I do think it's real. Like, I don't want to ignore that real impact. Like, there's going to be shifts, like 100%. There will be shifts in the economy. There will be wealth shifts. There will be transference of money. There will be economic impact. So I don't want to minimize that. That stuff's real. But I think the lens that we take and how we approach that for our teams should be seeking the opportunity in it, not the scarcity of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I love your answer and actually agree with your answer. And I intentionally gave a very extreme range of lay off half to, I'm just going to optimize, because I do share your view. But in total honesty, I have heard people talk along those lines. Mm-hmm. So I have heard that question asked where people don't have a full understanding of where it's at today. And that probably speaks to maybe how they approach their businesses in general. But to our discussion earlier, it's not about people losing their jobs. It's about optimizing what they're doing, which is what you just illustrated. So again, I intentionally gave kind of this hyperbolic range to illustrate that point. I heard a tool in someone else's hands.
And I think in case this conversation gets deep within the team, right, and you're someone in that seat that's worried about your job or replacement. It's not AI that's going to replace your job, but a person using AI could. Mm-hmm. So one thing that you do need to be mindful of, in my opinion, is we now have access to a more effective tool across a variety of functions. Evolve. Right. But that should be, again, we get curious. We want to learn. We want to grow. That should be something every one of us at every level of the employee, staff team, corporate team, as well as the field should embrace, right? Is how do we learn what's new to make us better at what we do? But yeah, I'm mindful of it. I mean, I live here in LA, right? I have Hollywood over. I have friends and close family that are involved in the entertainment industry. And, you know, if you follow the media, right, there's all kinds of conversations going. If they've been on strike for how long?
Yeah, it's part of the demands.
So everybody's like, why aren't I getting new shows on my Netflix and Apple TV? Because everything is stopped. And one of the core conversations is this right here, right? I mean, it's AI and impact, and it is real. So I want to be empathetic and sympathetic to it. I mean, there's going to be shifts, but I also want to nudge and inspire the executive team to think from a visionary standpoint and an opportunity standpoint, and from a corporate or field level to embrace evolution, right? And grab the tools to allow you to become, you know, greater, bigger, stronger at what you do.
Yeah, I agree. I think the goal should be, how do we optimize individuals' effectiveness to help us scale and grow, not just from focusing it from a resource perspective. So with that being said, what do you feel are some of the most beneficial use cases for business and for life right now?
Yeah, those questions I gave, I would literally write those down. Like, they're not rhetorical. Like I would take it as literal, right? So if you want an action item from this conversation, if I had 10,000 geniuses that would do anything I want, what would I have them do? It's like a real question. What is the list of things that I know we should be doing that we're not? What are the list of things we should be doing more of that we're not? Like, just actually make the list. And the reason I'll say is, I'm willing to bet already today, there are tools in the toolbox that can allow you to get to more of that list. Right? They can allow you to unlock more of that genius. So I would start with that. And it is super practical. You know, on a personal level, when I use it, I use it instead of Google for anything I want to learn, I want to know. Right. I use it to help me think. I use it to help me ideate. My wife and I have fun with it when we're thinking about vacations or experiences we want to go on to give us ideas. You know, she's been throwing parties for friends. We're using it for, themes there, suggestions. We just use it as a discussion partner. I mean, it's like the best ideation or discussion partner that you can have, because it knows everything and it'll give you the answer on demand. It helps make decisions. Right. Sometimes for me, I just want that validation or reinforcement, that affirmation. Am I thinking the right thing? Am I thinking the wrong thing? Am I not seeing something? And now I have someone that'll answer me 24/7 and they don't get bored with me blowing up their phone. Like ChatGPT is there. So, I mean, it is something that you can wrap into, your day-to-day life. And there are already utilities, right, that are for all of that. From a business perspective, it really is kind of every function. So very similarly, like, you can use it for research. You can use it for ideation and strategy. For me, and I don't know if there's any creatives out there listening, like, sometimes the hardest part is to start. Where do I start thinking, right? Where do I start ideating? Where do I start writing? Where do I start creating? Where do I start? Give me perspective. Like, there's so much creative resistance at the beginning of anything. And these tools can almost entirely remove the creative resistance to starting and then evolving and then getting the wheels spinning instantly. So anything like ideation, research, strategy, learning. I mean, I'm having fun with little apps out there that I can loop into YouTube, and Wayne, it'll help me speed learn. Instead of watching a 45-minute video, it watches the video for me. I can ask it to summarize it in 3 minutes and give me the action items. And it knows all of that in 2 seconds before I press play on the video. Like, it's insane the rate we can glean information, right? And the rate that we can learn. So there's that kind of bucket. But anything, communication, obviously the language models, ChatGPT being obviously one of the biggest, if not the biggest or most popular now, but there are others. So anything, email, communications, marketing copy, web copy, media creation, video, media, scripting, and not just from a creative standpoint, but tapped into YouTube algorithms that know instantly what people are searching, how they're searching, what keyword density, what topics get clicks, like all the stuff that used to be trial and error guesswork as marketers, we'd have to do, get clicks, test, review. AI knows all the data real time. You can literally start there, right, with all of these different tools. The creative process. Like, I'm not a video editor. I've always had teams of video editors, but like with these tools, I can be a video editor. I'm not a designer. I'm a horrible designer. I've always had teams of designers. With these tools, I can be a designer. I'm not a writer. I'm horrible at spelling, grammar. Wayne, I've lost the ability to physically write. I stopped doing it a long time ago. I can't even finish a word without getting bored and turning into a Dr. Scribble. But with AI tools, I can be a writer, right? And I'm using I rhetorically, right? We as individuals, you as your team, right? An individual, right, can do that. But everything, I mean, any sort of function I can keep rattling off. Obviously, customer support, customer service, even the simple things like productivity. I'm using AI, Wayne, for my meetings. I have AI assistant log into every one of my Zoom meetings and capture the conversation, condense it down into notes and summaries and action items and kick it out to all attendees of the meeting all automatically. Like, I used to take so much time to do all of that. Some meetings I don't even show up to. If I'm double book or triple book, I have my AI assistant and I read the summary, right, as an executive. So, I mean, I'm just rattling, but these are all things that are like here and real now. The ability to just increase productivity, increase efficiency, and buy back time. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. Buy back time in so many different ways and increase our capability and our capacity. It's mind-blowing. So those are just me rattling off the top of my head a list. I'm sure there's a lot more that we can go into, but I would start with the big questions, right? At the beginning of really, what are those things? Like, don't think small, think big. Like AI is like, I really felt when I first had that experience when I'm playing with these, the first thing that came to my mind, the first analogy was like, it feels like you have superpowers. Like it's, if you woke up tomorrow and you could fly, where would you go? Right? If you woke up tomorrow and like you had these, you were the Avengers all wrapped into one, like what would you do? I would start thinking about that top down and then drilling into, okay, what are the tools and the mechanisms to move in that direction? Because the tools are already there. I'm not speaking into tomorrow. They are there. And they're just getting better and better and better. And where they will be in 90 days, 6 months, and 1 year is crazy to even think about. So I would start there. So that's a quick practical list. I'm sure there's a long laundry list of other, but I would start with those questions and then dive into what matters most for you.
Make sure to register now at dsu2023.com to claim your seat at the largest executive attended event in the channel. More than 500 executives register for DSU, representing more than 150 direct selling companies. And this DSU is truly going to be the best yet. More than 30 leading executives will take the stage, sharing incredible insights and actionable takeaways to help evolve and inspire your business strategies like never before. 30 plus TED-style presentations, 4 panel discussions covering everything from legendary leadership insights, how service-based companies are driving results, how to attract and engage the Hispanic market and communities, and progress and insider updates on affiliate marketing strategies. Plus, attendees will have 2 bonus workshop breakouts to choose from on Wednesday, October 11th, following general session. A growth strategies workshop featuring brands with consistent growth over the last few years, and the AI Edge workshop, hosted by Blake, for a hands-on session exploring new AI tools step by step right there on your laptop that can immediately impact your productivity and output. Register today at dsu2023.com to take advantage of these bonus workshops, all of the content, speakers, networking, and more. This episode is also sponsored by Gen Con. Constant innovation and stability are the keys to Gen Con's 5th decade of success in the direct selling industry. Gen Con's newest digital solutions are Jot Live Shopping and Jot Affiliate Manager. Jot Live allows your representatives, influencers, and even the company to live sell products through video streaming with just a couple of clicks by guest shoppers. Jot Live is modular, designed to integrate into your enterprise, and is extremely cost-effective. The Jot Affiliate Manager allows you to reward your retail customers for socially sharing their excitement for your products while ensuring your sales organization still receives their commissions. Visit gencon.com for more information and to schedule a discovery call today. That's JENKON.com. Now, let's get back to the interview with Blake Mallen.
I want to circle back. You talked about using it for creative. You and I had a conversation a couple weeks ago. I had shared something. You're working on something similar. One of my old creative agencies that worked with huge brands over the years just did an entire brand identity, all the creative assets for a client using AI. So from logo development to naming, all the way down to packaging concepts, and even to product and lifestyle images, photo shoots, essentially. So it is pretty wild. This is what they can do today. Now, again, I can't even imagine in 6 or 12 months what it's going to be able to do, but I was super impressed. And I know you've been playing around with some of these and some of the assets, the visual assets you showed me. I was blown away at the ability that you had, again, just prompting it to create some pretty incredible brand assets.
It is crazy. And you know, I don't want to go too far down that, you know, rabbit hole because we can spend all the time there, but you know, Prove It's a part of a portfolio of brands. Intelligent Brands is our holding company, and we own, right, a variety of brands. Prove It obviously being in the ketone category, but also in the food delivery business. You know, Sunbasket, Gobble, a variety of brands there, and other kind of traditional D2C. So I'm part of an omnichannel family here. Prove It's obviously my focus, right, on a day-to-day, but I am involved in some of these traditional kind of D2C brand projects, and it's crazy. You know, we have one small brand, but it'll do significant revenue in the D2C world in the portfolio this year. And it's being managed by one part-time person with a toolbox, right? And that one part-time person with a toolbox is doing everything with their toolbox. Product shoots, all AI driven. All ad creative and ad copy, AI driven. The social content, AI driven. The publishing of the social content, AI driven, right? The responding, right, on the social, AI driven. Like, I mean, it's one person's spare time with the toolbox that historically, right, would have taken a lot of different type of people and perspective to accomplish it. So that's what I mean by superpowers and the ability to kind of think bigger. But yeah, I've experienced the same thing, both on kind of smaller projects, and then obviously inside the Prove It walls, we're doing a lot to kind of just inspire curiosity, right? Getting people to start using, start playing, start to think, how can they use these to amplify what they do kind of across the culture? And obviously there's huge impact to the distributor community and what promoters can do in the field to amplify their efforts. So across the board, you know, dive in and have fun.
No, that's great. So we've talked a lot about kind of the current state of affairs. So now looking forward, we hear a lot about where it will go. AI will do this. So help us again, also kind of fact from fiction here, look at some of the thoughts on economic impact, potential concerns and ethical dilemmas that we talked about. I know one of the concerns you raise is around human connection. Can you share some of the future state and address some of the potential concerns that are often heard? Yeah.
I mean, it's real. I'm weird, Wayne. And when I say that I'm weird, like I kind of manage my life with a framework of two buckets. What I mean by that is, right, it's really like an old Stoic philosophy. There's things you can control and things you can't control, and everything falls into one of those two buckets. And I really do try to spend as much of my lifetime energy on the bucket of things I can control and spend as little energy as possible on the things that I can't control. Because I can't control them, right? So I kind of just look at that. I just don't spend energy. Sometimes I get sucked into that bucket, but I try to get out of it as quickly as I can. And then I look at things like things either add energy to me or take energy away from me. And those are my buckets, right? So I try to I try to everything in life. It either gives me energy or takes energy. Every person, everything, every task. And so me, I try to live with like, how much of my life can I spend in the bucket of what I can control and what gives me energy? And I try to stay out of the buckets of what I can't control and what takes my energy. I'm not perfect. I get sucked into it, but I do my best to aspire in that direction. So like there's a lot of topic. You start talking politics at a social table, I am useless because I tune out. I start thinking about other things. Like I don't spend energy into things I can't control. You start talking about kind of the doom and the gloom in the AI world. It's like, Terminator's coming, Arnold Schwarzenegger's coming out of the dark. I just disconnect because it's like, I don't control that. It takes energy from it. So my point is, I'm probably not the best person to speak on the topic of it because I try not to spend time there. However, it's real. I'm not naive to it. I don't want to be unsympathetic or, I want to have compassion for it. There's going to be an economic shift. 100%. It's inevitable. There's no way there won't be with this evolution. It's like when the internet, it really is like, okay, the internet, did the internet have an impact? Yes or no? And I mean, if you were still here now saying, I don't use the internet, don't touch that data stuff, like you'd be at a disadvantage. I really think this is the first thing. I know a lot of booms or bubbles relate to like the internet, but I think this is really like the first thing, AI as a whole, that is not only as big as, I think it's bigger. So to think it's not going to have an impact, I think would be naive. If anything, I think it's being downplayed. And I know that sounds weird because there is a lot of conversation, especially in this bubble. I'm actually fascinated that we're not hearing more of it. Wayne, I feel like when I was talking to my wife the other night, I'm like, I don't understand why everybody isn't really talking about this and using it. And I'm like, it's not really in the media. And I don't want to go conspiracy theory, but maybe the media just doesn't know how this is going to affect them yet or the world. So it's not getting the spotlight on it. There's an old quote. I don't remember who it's from, but it's basically like, if you don't want anybody to find the treasure, hide it in plain sight. They'll never see it. And that's how I feel like we're in right now. Like you don't want anybody to find the treasure, yet it's in plain sight. But it's not getting the limelight, I think, because people just don't know the impact of it. But it's going to make an impact. Economically, 100%. I have close friends and family, again, that I get in conversations socially, and I share my excitement, and I get a weird vibe back, and I understand it because they're in those situations right now where they feel unsure and uncertain. To have a perspective shift, I challenge all of us to say, well, what's the opportunity in this? So if there's going to be an economic shift, well, to me, that's an opportunity. Maybe there's a golden era of entrepreneurship about to come. Maybe a bunch of the tasks, right, that were kind of low level and mundane, we're going to be able to use tools to automate. So it frees us to be more creative, more inspired, do things that are more fulfilling. Maybe that allows more people now to make a leap into entrepreneurship for the very first time, right? And become an entrepreneur and control their freedom. Maybe this whole industrial revolution thing of like our identity is tied to our work, which we've been stuck in for decades, wasn't like that before then. Maybe there's a way to kind of get back to, okay, yeah, this day-to-day task can be automated so I can do things that light me up and make an impact, right? So I kind of create that shift when I urge everybody who's listening to, yes, don't ignore it. There's going to be an economic shift, but isn't that opportunity? And if there's going to be a shift, isn't this a chance for you to get ahead? And if we're able to automate mundane tasks, doesn't that free us up to be more creative and do things that inspire and make an impact? And how can we position ourselves to be in that upper echelon, right? If there's going to be a gap that gets created, why can't we be the one that makes the jump and is on the other side of that gap, right? So, I think it's just a matter of how we approach it. For sure on the economic side, on the ethical side, I don't spend energy there. It's real. I mean, it's super real. I mean, ethics by definition are subjective, whose ethics, whose morals. It's a subjective conversation. And it is real. The whole deep fake thing. Have you seen the I am not Morgan Freeman viral video?
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. It's
so
amazing how real they look.
It is like, that's a funny one. It's, Morgan Freeman saying, I am not Morgan Freeman. And it looks and sounds like him. And that's where it is today. Where is it going to be in 90 days? Everybody saw the Drake, Weekend deep fake song go viral. Like, that stuff's real. It's going to have an impact. Where's the opportunity in it? To me, it's just like anything else. It's not going to be the machine to be concerned of or the AI to be concerned of.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with that. It's the same. It's the age-old conversation. It's people. So for me, the opportunity there is let's be good humans. Let's use the tools for good. If we're given superpowers, let's use them to make an impact. I'm a fan of superhero movies. I watch them with my kids. And the storylines are always the same. Like, what's the difference between the superhero and the supervillain? The only difference between the superhero and the supervillain in all these storylines are how they were raised. And that's kind of the where we're at right now is like, we got these superpowers. Superpowers are objective. What we do with them determines if we become superhero, supervillain. So like, to me, that's opportunity. Be a good human, shine a light. And Wayne, what's interesting about this is you actually have an impact because it's generative. It's collaborative. People using the tools teach the tools, right? People using AI teach AI. So I think that's the opportunity in all of that. And you mentioned human connection. I know you and I had a more philosophical conversation on that one. I think it's real. I think we were already on this trajectory. Social media created a fake connection. I went hiking with a friend this past weekend, and he's like, yeah, it's just weird. I feel like I know everybody because I see what they're doing on Instagram, but I feel like we don't have the same kind of connection. It's like a fake or false, connection. I'm like, that's super profound. Like, social media makes us feel like we're connected, but we're actually emotionally more disconnected. And that bubble ran into pandemic, which forced a disconnection. And I think AI, if we're not careful, will dramatically amplify that of where this can go if we're not careful. So I do think that's real. But again, flip the coin. I think the opportunity, especially for us as direct selling, we are community-based. So for us, if you think about all these shifts, okay, people are going to be worried about jobs. Well, entrepreneurship. We're able to scale what we do, bigger impact, right? Okay, let's talk about the ethics. Let's lead by being good humans. Well, what about, creating disconnection? We have a business model that actually brings people together and thrives on community and connection, which I think is going to be placed at a higher value than ever before. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I generally stay out of those topics. I do think they're real. I don't want to minimize them, but I urge all of us to say, as a channel, as a company, as a community, what is our opportunity to take advantage of the time that we're in? It will be an impact for sure. We get to decide what type of impact that is for us and our businesses.
Yeah, I think it's an important perspective. And when we talk about kind of the human connection, we experienced that to some degree a few years ago when we were forced, as you say, to disconnect, where we saw all these incredible benefits around scale and reach of virtual, of connecting in the digital world. And we, for a moment, thought maybe this is the answer. And then we soon realized that without that personal kind of face-to-face element, those connections can never run deep enough. And I think there's important implications for direct selling and social selling as a whole. And you started or you did discuss some of the implications for direct selling and social selling. Mm-hmm. Can you go a little bit deeper on the channel as a whole? Like, what do you see as some of the main implications or ways that'll be impacted by AI?
I think that's up to us. Right. I mean, I think it's up to us collectively as a channel. I think it's up to us individually as operators, companies, and brands. So 100%, it's going to have an impact. 100%. My opinion, right? I don't see how this capability, the superpowers in our hands, the toolbox that's being created cannot have an impact. The question is, what impact? And I think right now are the early stages where we get to choose the approach that we're going to take. I kind of alluded to it on the corporate side. I think it has the ability for us to scale bigger, further, faster than we ever could before in like simple ways. Wayne, I mean, I remember when I was scaling my previous brand that I was a co-founder in internationally. And I remember how painful, like, oh my gosh, how painful it was to go into new markets and put everything in local language. Like, I mean, it was so redoing all the video. I mean, it took us so many people and so long. And I think about today with what we have in our hands, how fast we can bring our products, our missions, our services across the world. Like, we're almost to the point where like culture and language are not even things. Like, we're close to that. Like, it literally is going to become like effortless. I mean, it can't be long. We have all these interpretation rooms on Zoom. Can't be long till AI is sitting on conversations like this and real-time translating in any language we want. And we can talk fluently across the world. Like, that can't be too far off. The technology is there, right? So I think it's just, how do we as brands use the tools to accelerate? And then from the distributor perspective, right, I think it really gets into how do we scale what you do? And I think this is ultra important because at the end of the day, great, we have companies, we have brands, we have corporate offices, but all that is meaningless without our community on the ground taking and sharing the message. They are the livelihood, right? They are what make this channel grow. And I think these use cases applied to what their DMOs, their daily methods are every single day, are just revolutionary. And in simple format, I'll look at it like this: like, what's the core metric of every one of our business models? To me, we all want to create a momentum. We all want to have a positive forward energy. We want to have an attraction. For me, like, momentum equals conversations over time. It's a really easy equation. Like, it doesn't matter what our brand or service is. Like, the momentum we create is all about the number of new conversations, prospects, recruiting, messages, DMs, Telegram, all the Zoom, wherever you're having your community's having conversations, divided by time. And those conversations, when I first got started 23 years ago as a distributor, like, it was hard to affect that ratio because we were stuck to our address book, like literally our phone number address book. And when we ran out of that, we had to go to the mall and strike up conversations with strangers. I remember doing this, right, to expand our list. Well, fast forward to today, conversations are happening on social media because it's efficient. We can reach more people, more targeted, have multiple conversations digitally. So it makes sense that social media has become kind of not the only, but the introductory tool. Not to say there's not merit for community. That's what makes this work. That's what makes this thrive. But introductions are happening a lot on social media today. So that means people are creating content to create conversations. And now we got a toolbox that just made all that easier. All of the content creation process, all of the social media marketing process, anything for the average person to go become that content creator without having to be a writer, without having to be a designer, without having to be an editor. There's tools that can help anybody have the superpowers. So I think it really can take away all the objections to a distributor in the field. I don't know anybody? Not anymore. Well, I can't create that? Not anymore. I don't know where to go? Not anymore. I can't, do what they do? Not anymore. Like, it removes every objection for the average person with desire. You got to have desire, still got to do the work, right? It's not going to do everything for you, but it makes it possible for someone to accelerate the conversations, their reach, their customer base, therefore their businesses, therefore our businesses. So those are my kind of quick off the cuff thoughts, Wayne, but like, there's going to be an impact. We're going to get there. It's just a matter of who gets there first, how fast do we get there? And I think right now we got a window of opportunity to really be a first mover, that early adopter phase, right? And accelerate our companies, which therefore accelerates our channel, right? At a time right now where I think it's perfect, right, for all of us to bring what we have to the world.
I love that. Thank you for that perspective. So I think it's also important to talk about this pace or rate of change that we're seeing, this evolution. Mm-hmm. Again, a lot of the articles, a lot of the pundits that you hear are talking about what it will do. It's always this point in the either distant or not too distant future but we're seeing this in real time, specifically with, call it ChatGPT 3 versus 4. Can you talk a little about this rate of change that we're seeing and how quickly you think it will?
Yeah, it is crazy. And it's not new, right? So it's like, I know we're starting to hear about it more, but I asked ChatGPT. I told you I've been curious. I'm down the rabbit hole. I'm just learning. Like, I asked ChatGPT for just like the history, like the concept of AI, that term, it was 1956, right? It was at a workshop in Dartmouth. It was year 2000 where like machine learning, right? Deep learning was actually starting to do things on its own, right? Where it could produce something, right, on its own thought without having the output directed, right? We're talking 2000s, a long time ago. But now it is kind of hitting this acceleration point for the reasons we talked about earlier, all the technical reasons, all the investment reasons, and really, I think the simplicity, right? Now it puts it in our hands where us as average laymen can get facility, can get practicality out of it. But it's crazy now how fast it is accelerating. So I do think ChatGPT kind of like put it on the mainstream app. And, what's crazy is it was only a couple months ago that we were on, ChatGPT, right, 3.5. And now we got ChatGPT 4. Well, ChatGPT 4 has an IQ of 155. It got measured, right? So the IQ of ChatGPT 4, what's in our hands right now for $20 a month, has been measured at the IQ of 155. Einstein was 160. Most smart people, right? If we're the intelligent breed, for everybody that's the intelligent, like you're in the intelligent category if you're like 120 to 130, right? And right now we got ChatGPT 4 in our hand operating at a 155. Oh, by the way, ChatGPT 4 was 10 times smarter than 3.5. And it got there on its own in 6 months based on the collective usage. It's learning. So if it went from 3.5 to 4, 10 times smarter in 6 months, what's ChatGPT 5 going to look like? What's ChatGPT 6 going to look like? What's ChatGPT 7 going to look like? You guys, we're an inch away from a tool set that's going to be 1,000 times smarter than Einstein or any human capacity. We're there. Right? It gets crazy, mind-blowing, exciting when you realize that we're going to have those type of tools in our hands for the first time in history, right? So to your point, Wayne, the evolution rate is super fast. I mean, the amount of tools that are getting wrapped on top of the AI, right? And that's all that's happening. All these different use cases for all these different apps and functions and websites, they're just wrapping a website, an app, a user interface on top of an AI. Some of them are wrapping on top of ChatGPT and OpenAI's framework. Some are tapping directly into, the AI open source. But the proliferation of those tools is crazy. And I mean, some of you guys are like, Blake, where do I go to find the tools? Just go search AI for the AI tools. Like, this is not, you don't have to be the expert. Go ask AI where you can find what tools that give you the AI tools. And there are literally AI tools that'll give you all of the real-time AI tools for all of the functions. So yeah, it's exciting to think of where this will be as we go into, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, let alone years from now. Right now, I think that's exciting. I think it's real, but I'm more trying to focus on like the here and now. Like, what can we put in our hand, in our team, in our field that's real, simple, practical today, and just get excited and be open, right, to exploring as smarter people, right, than me are out there figuring out how to make it simple for all of us to use this in our day-to-day lives.
To that point, I would love to end with you giving us your thoughts around what we should be doing today. And you talk about the importance of being curious at this time and with these tools. Can you kind of send us off with this idea around curiosity and playing with these tools?
I first had people in our community bring ChatGPT to me, Wayne, in like November, December. And I ignored it. I had some of our top leaders, Blake, have you seen this ChatGPT? And I didn't even open the app. And I I think about why, and if I'm just gonna be honest with all of you and all of us, like, I'm like you, an executive in a company running multiple projects and ventures. Like, my list is long, and I got a long work to do list. Oh, and I got my son 7, my daughter 5, my wife Karis. I love to spend time with my family. I want to be the dad. The dad guilt is real. There's kids activities all the time. Like, balancing all the things. I think for me, it was like, oh man, I was almost scared to open Pandora's box. Because I was afraid of getting overwhelmed. I was like, what is AI? I mean, I didn't even know the definition of AI until you asked me today, Wayne, and you made me look it up. Right. So like, what is this? I think I get it. Don't really get it. So for me, I had to go through some shifts, and it was actually, to DSN's credit, it was the DSU event. It was April this year, right? We were together. Was it April, yes. March, April? And Stuart's so good at this. Like, he's so good at spotting it's not even a trend. Like, what is around the corner? Not even call it a trend. This is not a trend. This is the future. And he made a point of it on stage, and he made a point to me personally. He's like, you should dive in. So I was late. Wayne, like I'm only a couple months in. And when I started to dive in, I will say I had one of those, like, those mind-blowing experiences. As soon as I started playing with it, I was like, I see the future. Like, I see it super clear. It was mind-blowing to me as soon as I just started to play with the tools. But I had to get my mind to shift to where this isn't new. AI is not new. We all use it every day. I'm wearing my Whoop on my wrist. I got my Garmin on this one, right? Some of you guys have your Aura ring. We're using AI for our health. We're playing on apps every single day. I can't get in my car and drive anywhere these days without turning on Waze or navigation and having AI direct me on where to go, right? I mean, you log into your Netflix, it's AI curating what you think you should watch. You go to Amazon, it's AI telling you what you think you should buy, right? I mean, everywhere in our life, AI is already making your life easier, better, and more effective. You don't need to make it. It's already there. You're asking Siri for something. You're asking Alexa for something. You're already using it, and it's already making your life better. So I had to make that shift going, I don't need to learn. I'm already using it. It's part of our life, right? The other thing I had to realize is it's not about adding more to your plate. So for all the executive listeners out there, this is not me ranting, saying, oh God, okay, I got to get one more. No, I'm trying to nudge you because I know the toolbox can take stuff off of your plate. And if you realize that this is about taking things off of your plate and buying your time back or exponentially increasing your result for the energy put in, it's not just another thing on a to-do list. And then lastly, Wayne, and you kind of alluded to this, and it was a big shift for me. So for all the achievers out there, all the perfectionists out there, like, or all the executives that feel like you need an expert or you need to be the expert, let that go. Let it go. You don't need to be the expert. You don't even need to find the expert. AI is the expert. It is the expert. It's a better expert than anybody that says they're an expert. And anybody that says they're an expert probably doesn't know what they're talking about because it's going to change tomorrow. Like, no discredit, but it's like, who's an expert? There's nobody an expert in this phase. Yes, there's people that are like one step ahead, but they're one step ahead because they started to play. So for me, I don't want to come across on this conversation or any conversation, I'm not trying to be an expert. I'm the opposite. I'm just trying to be a good student and a student that's willing to learn and let the tools be the expert and navigate us. I'm not trying to say I have to know everything or find somebody that knows everything. I'm just taking an approach of this is brand new. It's going to make an impact. It makes life better and simpler. There's huge potential. Play with it. So my message to all of you listening is just have fun. Like, let go of this big deal and just start playing with it. Start using it. And don't let this be one of those things that you delegate to someone, to delegate to someone, to delegate to someone, and hope you get the notes, next week. actually start playing with the tools and then prompting your community internally in corporate and in your leadership in your field just to start playing with the tools. And as people start to play with the tools and be like, oh, I know how this hammer makes things easier, this drill makes things easier, like the collective energy around it will start to go, right? And that would be my suggestion for everybody is less on your plate, not more on your plate. You're already using it. There's nothing to be afraid of. And it's not about having to know everything or find somebody that knows everything. It's just about curiosity and playing and learning and then sharing collectively. And that's why I love DSN, and what we're able to do is collectively to come together to share what we're learning to kind of get better together. So I don't know if that story helps all of you, if you feel where I was earlier this year, but I'm only one step ahead. Right. And the people that are like the best of the best of the best of the best in this space, they're only 2 steps ahead. There's nobody that's a mile ahead because this is too new of a conversation evolving too fast. So just take the step, right? Just take the step. And we're all already ahead than the rest of the world because we're still in like the micro 1% that's even using ChatGPT, right? So if you're in this conversation, you're already right ahead of where it's at and should be excited about where we're able to go.
Blake, I love that. Thank you so much for your time today, for your insights, and especially your inspiration around being curious as it relates to AI and really digging in. We know that this is going to be a game changer and affect all of our personal and business lives. So thank you so much. For all of you listening, if you want to hear even more from Blake, he's doing an incredible training on AI at DSU October 11th through 12th in Dallas. So there's still plenty of time to register. So make sure you do. Make sure you be there. You don't want to miss any of this other great information that Blake is going to be sharing with us. Blake, have an awesome time. Thank you again for joining us, and good luck with your podcast and direct selling shift.
I appreciate it. See y'all at DSU.
Thank you for tuning in. Please take a minute to give a 5-star rating and review to help Direct Approach continue to provide candid interviews and insights for direct selling corporate executives. And register today for DSU at dsu2023.com to take advantage of the incredible content and networking opportunities on October 11th and 12th at the Fall 2023 event in Irving, Texas. Thank you for listening and supporting DSN and the Direct Approach podcast.